What if the stars were not silent? What if every flicker in the void was not just light, but a warning left behind by something ancient, something watching? When 9 alien ships appeared over Earth without a word, without a weapon fired, humanity expected an invasion. But what we found was far worse than war. We were not being attacked. We were being remembered. And in the shadows of that memory, something older than time itself had begun to stir. This is not just a story of survival. It is the moment we realized we were part of someone else's unfinished fight. And it is only just beginning. Before we start, please, click that card button in the top right corner to subscribe now. And be sure to ring the notification bell so you never miss a single one of our epic daily stories the moment they drop. There's a pinned comment on this video, and aliens hide the answer in plain sight. Can you outsmart them? Crack the pinned comments question to prove humanity's brain power reigns supreme. Watch every second till the end of the story. I'll be waiting for your answer. Let's dive into the story. A shimmering silence hung over the wreckage of orbital platform Rewritten 5, broken only by the soft hum of stabilizer jets keeping the observation pod afloat. Commander Reyna Holt narrowed her eyes at the twisted ruins of what used to be Earth's last automated defense node around Polaris Station. Sparks flickered in the debris field like dying fireflies, and Reyna's gloved fingers curled tighter around the railing. 3 weeks ago, this place held off a pirate raid without a scratch, she muttered. Now, shredded like tinfoil. From behind her, a voice chimed in with dry amusement. That's what happens when you let a bunch of historians manage security protocols. Reyna didn't bother turning. She knew that tone. Kellen Voss, civilian liaison, former anthropologist turned war analyst, and pain in her ass since the day they met. I suppose your dissertation on ancient siege warfare would have helped, she shot back. Kellen walked up beside her, arms folded, the faintest grin pulling at his lips. At least I'd have remembered to change the default encryption codes. Come on, Reyna. Rewritten 5 was running its diagnostics when it got hit. That wasn't incompetence. That was precision. Reyna turned to face him. You think it was the Therans? Kellen's grin faded. I think, he said carefully, it was someone who wanted us to think it was them. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes returned to the wreckage, scanning for patterns, answers, maybe even ghosts. For years, humanity had balanced on the edge. No formal military, just an adaptive defense corps and scattered coalitions. The Pax Accord forbade standing armies. They called it peace. Reyna called it wishful thinking. Any survivors? She finally asked. One. Kellen's voice dipped. Maintenance technician. Name's Jules. She's in medbay now. Says she saw something before it went dark. Something big. Reyna's jaw tightened. Of course she did. Not like that, he said. She said it cloaked. 1 second, it was space. Next second, there's this thing, massive, jagged, like it was stitched from scrap. Then it fired. Reyna glanced at him sharply. No known species uses that kind of optical cloaking. Not at that scale. Exactly. Kellen looked at her. Whoever this was, they're not in our database. A long silence stretched between them as the pod drifted closer to a charred hunk of plating, still glowing from plasma residue. Reyna exhaled slowly. This wasn't just an attack. This was a message. Kellen nodded. And the worst part? I think it was meant for us. She turned fully to him now, voice slow. Then we'd better start listening. He raised an eyebrow. To what? To the silence, she said. Because whoever's out there, they've already started speaking. Suddenly, the console at the far end of the pod lit up with an incoming transmission. Not routed, not tagged, just there. Reyna and Kellen exchanged a glance. She strode to the console and accepted it. A single line of text appeared across the screen. First test successful. Next wave inbound. Prepare. Reyna felt her stomach turn to ice. Oh hell, Kellen whispered. Reyna's voice was steel. Give me the console. Now. And just like that, the countdown to extinction had begun. The interior of the med bay was quiet, save for the rhythmic hiss of pressurized valves and the faint beep of bioscanners. Commander Reyna Holt stood at the observation window, watching the lone survivor of the Warden 5 disaster. Jules, the technician, floated weightlessly in the recovery chamber, her body suspended in a healing gel. A series of burns ran along her left arm. Her eyes were open. Haunted. Is she coherent? Reyna asked. Dr. Halvani adjusted his coat and nodded. Lucid, yes, but shaken. Severe shock. Whatever she saw out there, it was not mechanical. Reyna's brow furrowed. What do you mean? She keeps describing the ship as alive. Reyna turned to him sharply. Alive? As in bioengineered? Halvani hesitated, then tapped a sequence on his pad, pulling up an audio clip. Jules's voice, ragged and low, played through the speakers. It moved like it was breathing like muscle, not metal. It shimmered, not like light-bending tech, more like skin. I saw an eye, just for a second, watching us. It blinked. Kellen's voice came from behind them. Well, that is comforting. Reyna shot him a look. You heard that. I hear everything that smells like a bad omen. He stepped closer to the glass, staring at Jules. An eye. That cannot be a coincidence. Reyna folded her arms. Bioships are theoretical. No known species has managed full organomechanical integration. The energy requirements alone would be massive, Kellen finished. Unless, he turned to her, a strange intensity in his voice. Unless it is technology, not by our definition. You are thinking alien? She asked, half knowing the answer. I am thinking ancient. Reyna's stomach tightened. You're not pulling that precursor species myth again, are you? Kellen did not smile this time. No myths, just bad history and classified archives. There are records of derelict constructs found in unclaimed sectors, organic signatures, untranslatable inscriptions, all quietly buried. Reyna narrowed her eyes. Why was I never briefed? Kellen shrugged. Because the council decided there was nothing to learn and a lot to fear. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as a power surge rippled through the med bay. The gel tank hissed louder. Jules blinked rapidly, her lips moving. Reyna stepped closer to the intercom. Jules? Can you hear me? The technician's gaze locked onto Reyna's, and for the first time, her voice came clear through the speakers. It whispered. Reyna leaned in. What was whispered? Jules shook in the gel, her hands trembling. It said, the veil has thinned. We are returning. Kellen exhaled slowly. Well, that is the creepiest thing I have heard in weeks. Reyna turned from the glass, voice low. Notify deep space sensors. I want full spectrum scans along the outer corridor. Kellen nodded. What exactly are we looking for? She glanced back at Jules, still trembling. Whatever is out there, Reyna said, it is not just coming for a fight. It is coming to reclaim something. And far beyond the edge of known space, in the shadow of a dying star, the eye of the ship opened once more. The desert moon of Eryx. 9 had never seen this much attention. A thin veil of dust hovered above the horizon as Reyna's dropship touched down near the excavation site. The council had flagged it 3 days ago after deep space scanners picked up a peculiar energy pulse. Organic, rhythmic, and impossibly ancient. Now, the site bustled with researchers, soldiers, and tension so thick it hung in the air like static. Reyna descended the ramp with her helmet tucked under her arm, her boots crunching against red sand. Kellen was already there, standing at the edge of a pit the size of a small stadium. He looked over as she approached, his usual sarcasm absent. You are late. I am 5 minutes behind, she replied. You are late to a discovery that might rewrite galactic history. So yes, late. Reyna joined him at the edge and looked down. Her breath caught. Nestled in the center of the excavation, half buried in rock and dust, was a structure that should not exist. Smooth, obsidian-like material pulsed faintly with a greenish hue. It was not built. It had grown. Reyna exhaled. Are we looking at a ship? Kellen shook his head. Worse, We are looking at a seed. Her eyes snapped to him. A what? The scan showed it is dormant for now, but it has vascular channels, neural conduits, and a membrane lattice. It is alive, and it predates humanity's existence by at least 20,000 years. Raina stared at the thing in the pit, her mind racing. How did no one ever find this before? Kellen raised an eyebrow. Because no one ever looked, and maybe because something wanted it hidden. Before she could respond, a voice crackled over the comms. Commander Holt, we have movement. Inside the seed. She spun toward the research tents. A technician waved her over to a monitor. On screen, faint pulses of light ran through the surface of the object, like veins awakening after a long sleep. We did not touch it, the tech said quickly. Just passive scans. Raina's voice was low. What triggered it? Unknown, the tech said. But whatever it is, it seems to be syncing with something off-world. Kellen leaned in. You think it is talking to the ship that attacked Warden 5? No, Raina said slowly. I think it is listening. A high-pitched tone suddenly blared from the console. Everyone winced. The screen filled with a pattern. Not letters, not symbols, just waves, rhythmic, measured, like breath. It is a heartbeat, the technician whispered. The seed is waking up. Kellen muttered, terrific. Ancient alien plants with a pulse. What did go wrong? Raina stood frozen, her eyes locked on the screen. She could feel it now, deep in her chest, like a forgotten memory rising. They are not invading, she whispered. Kellen looked at her. What? They're coming back. And far above the dusty moon, drifting silent through space, something answered. The pulse returned. Faster this time. Louder. And the seed pulsed with it. Once then again. The briefing room aboard the UES Vanguard was a fortress of silence. No chatter, no fidgeting, just the low hum of the ship and 20 pairs of eyes locked on Commander Raina Holt. She stood at the front, flanked by Kellen and Admiral Sarah Lang, who had arrived personally after the seed's activation was confirmed. A display behind them showed a live feed of Eric's 9. The seed now pulsed every 6 seconds, each vibration sending tremors across the planet's crust. Raina took a breath. We now have proof that the structure buried beneath Eric's 9 is not only organic but responsive. Something has been activated. Something. Oh, someone in the back cleared their throat. Commander, are we certain this is not just ancient defense tech? Kellen stepped forward before Raina could answer. Defense technology does not grow veins. It does not have a heartbeat. This thing is not a relic. It is a sleeper. Admiral Lang crossed her arms, and it is waking up. The room fell into a stunned silence. Raina pointed at the feed again. This pulsing pattern, it is matching signals we picked up during the Warden 5 incident. Different locations, same rhythm. They are connected, meaning Warden 5 was not a strike. It was a trigger. A young intelligence officer leaned forward. So, you are saying these things were planted here? Kellen nodded grimly. Planted, hidden, forgotten. Until now. Another officer asked. By whom? Raina met his eyes. We do not know, but they were not human. Not the Ran. Not any species we have ever cataloged. Admiral Lang stepped up, her tone sharp. Then the question becomes, what happens when it finishes waking up? Kellen answered softly. Then we stop being the dominant life forms in this region of space. Someone laughed nervously. Raina shot them a look sharp enough to silence a battle cruiser. This is not speculation anymore. Jules, our only survivor from Warden 5, reported a voice. It whispered the veil has thinned. We are returning. And now the seed pulses. Like a beacon. Lang exhaled through her nose. We cannot afford panic. We do not have time to avoid one, Raina said. We need to prepare the colonies for possible contact. And a loud beep cut her off. The ship's emergency channel flickered to life. A communications officer's voice crackled through. Emergency broadcast from Polaris Deep Array. Multiple signals inbound. Estimated arrival 4 hours. Kellen's jaw clenched. How many? The officer paused. At least 9. Possibly more. All with the same biosignature as the object on Eric's 9. Reyna's voice turned cold. They are not waiting anymore. Lang turned to her. Commander, if these are hostile and we engage, are you confident we can stop them? Reyna stared at the pulsing seed on the screen. No, she said, but I'm confident we will not be fighting alone. Kellen looked at her. What makes you so sure? She turned toward the window, where Earth's crescent glowed just beyond the stars. Because if we were meant to be wiped out, they would not be warning us. And somewhere deep in the black, 9 lights began to blink in unison. Approaching, answering the call. The command deck of the UES Vanguard buzzed with restrained chaos. Officers barked orders, data streams flooded every screen, and the sensor array blinked red with each new incoming contact. 9 vessels, unidentified, silent, and organic, were on final approach toward Earth's outer defense ring. Reyna Holt stood rigid, her hands locked behind her back as she stared at the tactical display. The incoming signatures moved with eerie precision, ignoring standard flight paths, weaving through asteroid belts like dancers in perfect sync. They are not even trying to evade detection, she muttered. Kellen stood beside her, arms folded, eyes scanning the data with a frown. Because this is not a stealth mission. It is a test. Reyna turned. A test. He nodded. They're gauging our response, measuring our fear, our resolve, our readiness. The attack on Warden 5, the Seed Awakening, these ships, none of it is random. It is coordinated. Psychological warfare. Admiral Lang entered the deck, her uniform spotless, her presence like a blade drawn in moonlight. Commander Holt, all planetary governors have been notified. Defense grids are hot. Civilian shelters are active. Reyna nodded once. Has there been any communication from the vessels? Lang shook her head. Still nothing. No chaz. No response. Just that same repeating signal pulsing from each ship. Reyna turned to the communications officer. Play it again. A low thrum echoed across the command deck. It was not sound. Not exactly. It was like a heartbeat wrapped in static, a vibration that curled in your spine and whispered to your bones. Kellen closed his eyes. That frequency, it is not random either. It is coded, layered, and I think I can crack it. Lang raised an eyebrow. You are an anthropologist. Exactly, he said. I specialize in ancient languages, patterns, cultural signals, and that, he pointed at the waveform, is not noise. It is a message. We just do not know the alphabet. Work fast, Reyna said, because those ships will reach the inner orbit in 47 minutes. Kellen was already pulling up a decryption interface. Lang turned to Reyna. If this goes sideways, your orders are to defend the planet. No matter what. Reyna nodded. I understand. Lang leaned closer, lowering her voice. No matter what means no retreat. No hesitation. You cannot afford doubt. Reyna's eyes met hers. I do not doubt. I prepare. The lights dimmed. An alert blared. The first of the alien ships had entered Earth's gravitational field. Visual feed now, Reyna barked. The screen filled with an image that stopped every breath in the room. The ship was vast, its surface rippling like muscle under blackened armor. Glowing veins pulsed across its hull. At its core, one massive eye, silent, watching. Kellen muttered, It is the same design as the Seed. This is not a fleet. It is a species. Suddenly, the ship emitted a deep, resonating hum. Lights flickered, systems glitched, and on every monitor, the same symbol appeared. 3 circles, nested within each other, slowly rotating. Reyna's voice was barely a whisper. They are not here to invade. Lang turned to her. Then why are they here? Reyna stared at the symbol, something pulling at her memory, something ancient. To remember us, she said, or to remind us of what we forgot. And high above Earth, the 9 ships aligned in a perfect circle and waited. The 9 ships remained motionless in orbit, their vast shadows crawling across Earth's atmosphere like ancient phantoms. Every defense battery on the surface was locked on them, every orbital cannon charged and humming. But not a single shot had been fired. Commander Reyna Holt stood alone in the darkened strategy room, staring at the rotating tricircle symbol now hovering midair. The lights were dim, the tension thicker than gravity. "They are still not attacking," she said softly. Kellen's voice echoed from the console behind her. "Because this is not about us." "Not really." Reyna turned to face him as he entered. "What do you mean?" He walked to the center of the room and tapped the floating symbol. It reacted, glowing slightly brighter. "I decrypted the core pattern," he said. "It is not language. It is memory." Reyna frowned. "Come again." "These signals are not messages. They are recollections. Fragments of something that happened a very long time ago. Some of it is encoded as data, some as sensation. Emotions, pain, loss, like collective trauma etched into a race." Reyna blinked, her voice quiet. "They're broadcasting memories?" Kellen nodded. "And if I am right, the seat on Eric's 9 is one of their memory vaults. Warden 5 was never the target. It was the key. The moment we disturbed it, the rest of them woke up." Reyna crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. "Then what do they want?" "To finish what was interrupted," Kellen said. "They came back to remember, to reclaim their past, and maybe to decide what to do with us." Reyna paced slowly, trying to piece it all together. "Why warn us? Why give us time to respond?" "Because we are part of the memory," Kellen replied. "And they're not sure if we're still a threat or something else." The door hissed open, and Admiral Lang strode in, her expression grim. "We just intercepted a new signal. Not from orbit. From Eric's 9. The seed has activated completely, and it is transmitting." Reyna snapped to attention. "To the ships." Lang shook her head. "To us." Kellen ran to the console and patched in. The signal pulsed, deep and resonant, but this time it came with imagery. The room was flooded with flickering holograms. Towering creatures, luminous cities, stars torn apart in war. A golden planet devoured in flame. Then humans, primitive crawling from caves. And finally, a shadow descending over it all. Something vast, with wings like obsidian sails. Reyna whispered, "What are we seeing?" Kellen's face went pale. "The fall. Their fall. And something they were trying to escape." Lang stared at the final image. The tricircle symbol, shattered and flickering. Something worse than them. Reyna met her eyes. Something's still out there. The ship above Earth began to glow brighter, its massive eye narrowing. "They are not here to conquer," Reyna said. "They are here to warn us." The ship's energy readings spiked. "Not weapons. A transmission. Put it through," Reyna ordered. The bridge filled with a voice. Not mechanical, not human, but echoing like thunder inside their minds. "You open the vault. Now they will come. Choose your side." And just like that, the signal ended. Silence fell. Reyna turned to Kellen, her voice steady. "I think we just stepped into someone else's war." The command center was eerily quiet. Outside the viewport, the 9 alien ships hovered in perfect formation, their surfaces rippling with pulsing light. Earth's orbit had never been more crowded or more fragile. Commander Reyna Holt stood at the front of the bridge, her hands planted firmly on the railing, eyes locked on the central ship's glowing eye. "They are still waiting," she said. Kellen approached from behind, a data pad in his hands and exhaustion in his eyes. "They're giving us time." Reyna turned to him slowly. "Time for what?" Kellen swallowed. "To decide." She looked away, jaw tight. "I'm tired of riddles, Kellen. What are we choosing?" He hesitated. "I finished decoding the final layer of the memory sequence. The tricircle symbol. It is more than a cultural marker. It is a seal. A lock." Reyna's stomach dropped. "A lock on what?" "Something ancient. Something buried deep beyond the galactic rim. The memory vaults. These seeds, they were warnings, Reyna. Beacons to keep the seal intact." Admiral Lang entered then, voice low and grave. One of our long-range scouts just vanished near the Trask boundary. No distress signal. No liberty. Reyna's voice hardened. Is that where the seal is? Kellen nodded. It is breaking. Reyna turned back to the viewport, eyes narrowing. So the memory was not just a record. It was a final request. Lang crossed her arms. From a dead civilization? No, Kellen said softly. From a civilization that sacrificed itself to protect the rest of us. Reyna stepped toward the central console. Put me through. To the lead ship. The communications officer hesitated. We do not know if they will hear me, Reyna said. A beat passed. Then the ship's massive eye shimmered, and the bridge lights dimmed. A connection was established, not through sound but sensation. Everyone on the deck felt it. Heat, pressure, grief. Reyna stood tall. We understand now. You are not here to reclaim. You are here to warn. A flicker passed across the ship's surface. And you need allies. The emotion deepened, agreement tinged with sorrow. Reyna continued. Humanity has made its share of mistakes. But when faced with extinction, we adapt. We fight, and we stand with those who ask for help. She paused, then added, We will help you. Whatever is coming, we will not face it as strangers. The ship responded, not with words, but with a wave of energy that passed harmlessly through the station. All across Earth and its colonies, every dormant vault, every seed pulsed in unison. Activated. Lang turned to Reyna, stunned. What did you just do? Reyna exhaled slowly. I chose our side. Kellen stepped up beside her, voice quieter now. You realize this means war. Not with them, but with what they were trying to stop. Reyna gave a faint smile. Then let us stop pretending we were ever safe. Far beyond the stars, in the void beyond the seal, something stirred. Something vast. Something waking. But this time, humanity would not face it alone. Here is the story's end. If you enjoyed and want to watch more thrilling sci-fi adventures, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Dive into epic battles, explore distant galaxies, and join brave heroes as they fight for survival against impossible odds. Let us know in comments if you want the next chapters to be published soon. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and become part of the journey. Together, we'll keep the last light burning. Subscribe now and let the adventure continue.